You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 2012 movie Dredd. Nathan, do you have a history with Dredd?
Yes, I do. I was looking forward to this movie for a long time when I heard about it. I think I heard about it like a year before it came out.
Oh, okay.
I went to the theater and saw it, disconcertingly almost by myself. I was like, wow, it was like Friday. It's like
Yeah.
there should be people here. But unfortunately, no. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd is another one of those few, because I say I'm not into comic books, but it's another one where I just did a library sweep. And because our public library down here has an awesome collection of all, they don't do like individual comic books, but they do the big compilations
Yeah.
where they're just giant books, and they had every one. And Dredd's pretty comprehensive
Yeah.
because it's been around,
The 70s.
yeah, since it's like 1977. So
Yeah, because in my mind it was like, oh yeah, this is just kind of a takeoff of RoboCop, and then I looked at it, I was like, no, it's longer than RoboCop. So.
yeah, it's almost as old as me. So
I think I would have been in like Marine Corps training at the time, so I wouldn't get to see this when it came out. But like I think I heard Patton Oswalt tweet about it, and then when it came out on DVD, I was able to get it and had a real fun time. It's like, oh, what a great movie!
yeah, it's an amazing movie.
And 96 minutes, like what a great runtime.
Yeah, in and out.
Really appreciate that.
It is a movie that is both true and not true to the original comic at the same time. It's
Yeah.
it's very, very, because Judge Dredd actually looks more like, what would modern people? It almost looks like he was dressed like Homelander from The
Yeah.
Boys, and not in this movie. He's dressed in a SWAT commando suit, and
Yeah.
that's he does have the helmet, but yeah, they definitely went with a very lean, cut back kind of envisioning of the world of Judge Dredd in this, which was really cool. It's a very, very much more a dystopian Dredd than what you get from the comics or the movie that they did in the '90s, which looked a lot like the comics, but the
Yeah.
story didn't really hold together that well.
Yeah, I mean, the first Judge Dredd movie is Sylvester Stallone. Like, there's things to like about it, but ultimately it seems a farce upon itself. Even though the comic book is a farce, I
Yeah,
think it's even an R-rated movie. So you think like, was nothing holding them back, and they still made a garbage choice. Like,
yeah. There was nothing wrong with the cast. There was nothing wrong with the way the actors performed their roles. It just the one they did was not good. But if you look at the comic books, it's like, oh, they lovingly recreated the comic book for
yeah,
that movie. Like, it has the look, but it missed the I don't know, because Judge Dredd is essentially a fascist
yeah.
in an awful world. Where,
Yeah.
okay, this guy is,
He's the good guy by comparison, but in any other world, he'd be an evil monster.
yes, yeah, he is. Well, he's not evil. He has this code,
Yeah.
and he works for the Hall of Justice, and that's it. And in this movie, and we're just, in the frame of this movie, it's like, well, for all we know, this is the only thing keeping this guy sane. Like,
Yeah.
he could just be a complete murderer in any other context. Now, in the comic book, it's a little different. The comic book is a farce of, it's kind of a farce of like, technology and fascism, and kind of Judge Dredd's like battling with, it's like, well, I'm not, I'm the least good, or I'm the least bad guy in this whole thing. It's like, because I have a code, and he faces increasingly ridiculous enemies, like judges that like,
Well, yeah, he
are,
faces off against death, right? Just
yeah,
like the
like Judge
horror.
Death.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
What was it?
zombie.
Yeah, I was kind of doing some Wikipedia stuff, and it was like, it's like Judge Death is like his ultimate thing is like, if you're alive, you're breaking the law.
Yeah, yeah, where you're violating the fundamental principle, because all life is death, and like, if you're alive, you're breaking the, yeah. And it's just, in the comic book, it's like, this is cool. I don't know if you could ever bring that to the screen or you'd want to. So what they did here was they just made it like, what's the darkest cop universe we could make, and they did it. And this is where our Alex Garland came onto my radar too.
Yeah. Which that's so like so I was like so yeah, well I guess I should the date came out September 21st, 2012, which I didn't see it then, but Nathan did, so that's
Yes.
um and yeah, like there was a lot of like undercurrent of like this is a great movie and then wasn't I don't even know if it made its money back, but
There's differing, probably they didn't do a lot to promote it, so
yeah.
that budget probably is actually close to a budget, but even with that they wouldn't have cleared it. So
Um
it is what is it, the most popular Blu-ray ever made though, or so, or
oh, I don't know, maybe.
there's some format it
Oh,
came out in.
I know there's some like contention with the 3D format it came out with in the theaters, so maybe it's the most popular 3D like
Okay.
Blu-ray or something like that. Because that was a thing for a while. I think you can still get 3D stuff, but I don't know like if I don't think they make 3D TVs anymore. Maybe you need special well, maybe they do. I don't know. Probably I don't know. That there was a moment there where 3D was going to be a thing, and then it just wasn't. Like I still
Yeah.
you can still watch like you can still go out and watch movies in 3D. Like sometimes I do, just because it seems to be in the bigger theaters. Or
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, I'll just watch it in 3D. Or it's usually like earlier times, and it's like, yeah, I just want to go to the first showing, so give me the 3D. I'll spend an extra $3, so I can see the movie an hour earlier, and maybe walk out of the theater with sunshine. That'll give me a migraine if I look at it. um, yeah, so yeah, it was like director Pete Travis, and then I was reading some trivia, and it's like maybe this wasn't directed by this guy, but I'm not sure the context of it. I'm not sure if it's
I think
like
it was directed by this guy, and then extensive reshoots were done by Alex Garland,
okay.
who
I
also did a lot of like behind the camera stuff with the director, like, no, do this, do that.
yeah.
He was also the script guy too, so it's like, okay.
Yeah, because if you look at like at the paths of Pete Travis and Alex Garland, it's like, well, Pete Travis goes on to make like be a TV director, and Alex Garland continues on to make cool sci-fi movies. So who do you think directed this cool sci-fi movies?
Yeah.
But I didn't know the situation. I didn't know if it was like, oh, this guy's from South Africa, and so they just like put him in as like a puppet director to meet some quota to like get some funding for the movie to be made like they do in Canada and all those other places, or if it's something like that, or if it's like a Tombstone situation, which I hear the rumor there was that like the director never actually directed because he was like stooped in alcoholism at the time, and basically Kurt Russell directed that movie. That's a rumor. Don't know if it's true, but it's one of those things you'd like to believe. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like enthusiastic. It's one of those stories. It's like, maybe one day I will take that home and do something great, but
yeah, well, because like, well, the follow up to that is like, well, Tombstone's a pretty good movie. Why did Kurt Russell never direct again? Well, maybe he did, but I don't remember him ever directing anything. So, at least not officially. Um. So yeah, I'm guessing Alex Garland directed this movie, for like you said. Well, because I've heard different things. I heard like, oh, he like basically kicked the Pete Travis out of the editing bay, and he re-edited this movie. But like you're saying, like he was on set and had extensive kind of, because yeah, he is listed as, or Alex Garland's also a producer on this, so that will give you
yeah.
power on it. So, let's see here. Cinematographer is Anthony Dodd Mantle. um, he's done stuff. Oh yeah, 28 Days Later, that was a big one. Yeah, he worked with Daniel Boyle a lot, which that's also encircles Alex Garland. So like that's the whole, you know,
Yeah.
big thing of what they do. He shot The Command, which we saw before, the Kursk movie.
Yep.
He shot Snowden, Rush. That's a good movie. Never saw Trance. I remember the concept of the Eagle. Never saw it. Antichrist, is that one of those? Oh, who's that guy? Lars von Trier movies.
Yeah, me and Stacy watched that. Like, is this scary? And I looked at the director and I said, well, define that. You watched it and she was like, what did I see? I said, you've watched a Lars von Trier movie. Congratulations. You want to get on the podcast? Like, no, I'm embarrassed that we watched it.
So yeah, this guy, he's done a lot of the Danny Boyle stuff, but he's been around, so I'm pretty sure he's just a British. Yeah, Oxfordshire, England. That's where he's from. So just a preeminent English director of photography. So. Of course, yeah, written by Alex Garland, who's written a bunch of Danny Boyle stuff. Like he wrote like Sunshine, which is like half a great movie.
Yeah. One of those like, this is great. Oh no, God's coming into it. Here comes the God cop out.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't. It was the main one of the characters going nuts about God was like, okay, that's
it just ruins the thing I hate where you send the smartest people in the world to go solve a problem and they die like they're in a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. It's like Prometheus took a lot of cues from that. It's like, let's take these geniuses and they'll die in the dumbest ways possible.
But even like Event Horizon has similar kind of things going on with it. Like it doesn't get as dumb as Event Horizon, but they have the same level of fall. Yeah. It's just like Event Horizon starts at a lower thing and falls farther, and Sunshine starts way higher up and falls in a middle cliff or whatever.
Yeah, Event Horizon just looks out from the outlook. It's like, oh, this is going to be like a grim science fiction movie with like, what a cool idea. It's like, oh, how do we get around general relativity? Just make black holes yourself. Well, cool. How can they screw this up? I see how that movie makes me angry to this day. It's like, such a cool idea. Whereas Sunshine, it just starts off in the stratosphere. It's like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And these people would act like this to a point. And then when the crazy stuff starts happening, it's like, what are these people all just are they being denied oxygen slowly and their brains aren't working? It's okay.
But actually, when we watched Event Horizon, it didn't get as dumb as I remember it getting. It's actually like everyone does act out and like they're trying to survive in that movie.
It's kind of like more what they're fighting is disappointing and
yeah.
Like, oh, infinite hell creatures can attack you from 360 directions. Well, there's no rules, so you don't know how you would outthink this. It's just except just deny all your hallucinations and then walk through fire. It's okay. Which nobody, I don't know. I've never hallucinated, so I'm getting older now. I need to start getting into the hallucinating.
Yeah, and I'm written by Alex Garland, who's, written a bunch of good stuff and recently directed like Ex Machina, Annihilation, which is a great movie. A great adaptation, and like
the fourth book's coming out October 22nd.
Oh, okay, cool.
Absolution will be out. I've already got it's already reserved.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, good to know.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like a lesser series, but a fun series, the Bobaverse books.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought they had 3 books, and it's like, okay, they wrapped it up pretty well, and now there's like 2 more books. I'm like, wait, what the hell happened? And I bought the 4th one, hadn't read it yet, and there's already the 5th one just came out. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm lost to this series, or maybe I'll get around to it. Who knows?
You'll be overwhelmed with Bob. So much Bob.
But yeah, Annihilation, that was like an impossible adaptation, and they did a great job because it's still
that was crazy.
Because it's still like not necessarily a satisfying movie to like, oh, we solved things, but it just delves into like the mystery and the unsolvability of Area X. So they did that very well.
Yeah, and this one they said it's gonna wrap things up. No, it isn't. Wrap some things up and it'll introduce even more bizarre elements.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, cast Carl Urban,
In his
who's
best film role.
yeah, it's a role he really likes. He wanted to do way more of these, but they never got back around to it. The closest they got was a TV series, which he was only going to be like a guest star in, like basically as like Dredd shows up to do Dredd things to remind everybody what this universe is or something.
Yeah.
So, um,
I'm the baseline of the law.
but I mean, around this time, he kind of had a lot of misses in his career, like especially like like well, he was in Lord of the Rings, which that was good. And, oh, was he a bad was he a good guy or a bad guy? Was he like an orc or something in that? I can't remember.
No, I think he. Let me look it up.
But then he was also in the Chronicles of Riddick movie, which he was like the like kind of the one of the bad guys in that. Um, and kind of floundered for a bit, and then happened upon like the new Star Trek movie series, and just kind of had a string of hits for a while. And then he was like, and then he was in the he has a great comedic role in the Marvel universe. And then got the boys, and now he's just kind of like he's just a dude. He's out there. You can hire him. He's great.
He was Aomir. He was the younger descendant. I think he was Theoden's nephew or something. The horse riders.
Okay.
He played that guy. I always remember him as Vaco from Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
That's another thing that like it's one of those things like I really like it, but nobody else does. There's good reasons not to, but I still.
With that character or Carl Urban?
No, the Chronicles of Riddick.
Okay. Oh yeah. That's just a great movie. It tried to do so many things, and then it seemed to be hard for the general public to swallow. And it was also just a time where it's like you couldn't have $120 million R-rated movie.
Yeah, that was a big throw of the dice.
Because that's even like I forget what the statistics were at the time, but I think like like Terminator 2 made like $200 million. It's like, why would you ever make a movie that costs as much as the the most a movie has ever made with an R rating?
Yeah, it seems unnecessarily handicapping. It's like, well, if you have that kind of money, you don't need to like just have blatant nudity and gore. Make things cool. But yeah.
But yeah, then eventually like that Wanted movie made like a huge amount of money. It's like R-rated movies are back, and then like now it's just like, and then like the Deadpool movies made like $1 billion, and those are basically like the premier money making R-rated movies.
Those are R-rated in like a fun way.
Yeah, it's just violence,
not in a chainsaw through the chest way. Like
or weird sex stuff. Well, I mean they have different sex stuff. I don't know. Have you seen the movie yet?
No, okay. I want to see that one, but
there is a fun where he gets suited up scene. And basically, like the guy who's the tailor is like basically like grabbing his crotch and slapping his ass and doing all these things, and then he comes out. It's like, great suit. Your tailor is a a sex pest, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But but I mean now you can basically have what are essentially R-rated television series, and so nobody cares anymore. So
yeah, you can, because it's all the because Netflix and HBO are the place where you just go do those TV series where it's like you just do full frontal nudity if you want to.
Yeah. We're not going to stop you if you get ratings, so go ahead.
Yeah. And then if it's really popular, we'll randomly cancel you because
unless you're like the Lord of the Rings series where we're going to spend $1 billion. Nobody really likes it. And here's 3 seasons. But that's Amazon, so.
And that's also like Jeff Bezos's like passion project is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it's like they might just be making it for him, and he has that kind of money.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that could be possible.
Ah, but he's not even like technically associated with Amazon anymore, right? Except for just stock. Like he's not the head of the company anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure what he says goes, but yeah, he's technically not the CEO or anything
But yeah, that
anymore.
doesn't mean he can't command influence. So
Yeah,
um,
I mean, they're building enough of them around here.
oh, like so, like distribution centers or
Yeah,
something.
oh,
Okay.
yeah, we're getting our own right new.
This is where your Amazon distribution center is. Olivia.
My son's going by. He's like, "That's the most dystopian thing I've ever seen." I was like, "Yeah, you are right." Yeah.
um, Olivia Thirlby, who like I don't really know. She's fine in this movie. So, she's from New York. That's all I know, really.
I'm trying to think of what I know. She was in Oppenheimer,
Oh yeah,
and she was in the Stanford Prison Experiment,
yeah,
which was the movie they made about. It was like a documentary drama
yeah.
thing. But yeah, I haven't. Don't know much else about her. I with that name, I thought she was British, and I found out she's from New York.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, yeah. I totally thought she was just British doing an American accent, but it's like no, it's just from New York. Um, I don't know. New Yorkers can be very posh. Depends where you're from. I doubt.
yeah,
I doubt she's from like Queens or something like that. So.
yeah, she's probably not from Long Island. Like she's like a crazy accent.
Let's see. Does it say where she's from? Well, I just want to know real quick. Again, I don't really know the dynamics of New York, but it's very.
She was raised in East Village of Manhattan.
Okay. Yeah, believe that's a posh part
Oh yeah.
of New York.
She also went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London.
Oh, maybe that's why she gives kind of a Shakespearean. Is she like Shakespearean trained? Maybe that's why she gives off kind of a British.
Yeah, because she also was at the American Globe Theater
Okay.
and someplace Center for Creative Arts in New York that I can't pronounce the name of. So yeah, she probably had a nice life there.
And then Lena Headey, who like this kind of her rise to power. Like she had the like the. I think maybe the first place I knew her was the Sarah Chronicles or Sarah Connor Chronicles TV show, which I think
Yes.
got like what a season and a half or 2 seasons.
I think it got like a season and a half, but it was really cool.
Yeah, I remember people like lament, like, "Oh man, we should have really supported that." But oh well.
I watched every one. I mean, that's where I got to know like the guy who played the one Terminator where they had to regrow his skin, Pro Marty.
Yeah.
Like that actor was like that guy's such a good actor. But and I know whenever I see him in something now, it's like, hey, it's from the Sarah Chronicles.
I think I watched like the first 2 episodes and I thought it was okay, but I didn't bother watching on Fox. I think that was probably when I was just deep into like, no, I'm just streaming everything. Um, and then I just had a thought like I should go back and watch that, and it wasn't streaming anywhere, like not even like to buy. So, um, but I don't know. Maybe I got caught in that same thing the Abyss was in, so maybe it's fine now. It's like
Yeah.
just all things associated with well, I can't remember his name. um, the director of Terminator.
Oh, James Cameron.
Yeah, all things James Cameron just went into a hole for a while until they got out, and they're remastered to varying degrees of quality.
I remember she stood out to me too because she was in The Purge directly after this.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
It was his wife who like came to play a very integral part towards the end of the movie.
And she's also like, and this is also like the start of Game of Thrones. Like I think the first
Oh
season.
yeah, that's right. She's the queen in that. Yeah.
So I mean, that's where she was the biggest. But yeah, she's great and stuff. So, and she's great here. Very weird, violent character. So.
Yeah. What's her real name?
Oh, is that like a stage name, Lena Headey?
No. Her name's Madeline Madrigal.
Yeah,
Mama.
yeah.
That's
I don't know if like Lena Headey had some because I saw some trivia the other day about like Ben Kingsley, like he had some name that was like people wouldn't hire him until he changed his name to Ben Kingsley, and then suddenly all the doors opened up for him.
Oh yeah, he probably had like a very, because he's like a, what's his ethnicity?
I don't know.
Like Gandhi.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you look at his like original name, it's kind of like I would guess it would have been an Indian name, but Ben Kingsley, real name Krishna Pandit Bahini.
Okay, so he was Indian. Okay, he is Indian. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that would be unusual if a guy played played Gandhi, and he wasn't Indian.
But would not be unusual for the time when he played Gandhi.
Yeah, what was that? The 80s?
80s, yeah.
Yeah. That is a great movie, by the way. I don't know if you ever watched that. It is a very watchable, cool movie. You know,
like,
despite whatever historical retconning's been done lately, it's just watch the movie for the movie. It's cool.
There's like that, and I guess by association of location, I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia either.
Oh, that's a great movie, also.
Yeah, well, sometime we'll watch it on the show just so I'll say I watched it. It's not really a B movie to be lifted up, but you know, it's like I haven't seen it, so let's watch it. So, sometimes we use this podcast as an excuse to watch a really good movie that I'm skeptical. Actually, I'm not skeptical that's a good movie. I just know it's a 3-hour long movie. So, where this isn't. But yeah, this is also the other movie we talked about with District 9 was shot in South Africa, and so this was also shot in South Africa. So there was kind of a moment in time where they're shooting movies there to kind of get a different look. Although I heard like I read that the big chase in the opening is actually shot in the UK.
Really? Okay.
But I'm guessing there's like pieces spliced in of South Africa here.
I was gonna say that because as soon as I did not know where this movie was at the time I watched it, where it was shot.
Yeah.
But I immediately thought District 9 when I was watching it.
Yeah.
It was like, well, this looks like Johannesburg or something, just
Yeah.
with giant buildings CG'd into the back of it.
Well, yeah, they had the CG America on top of Johannesburg. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, somehow Mega City 1 here seems way more practical than it did in the 90s one, where it was just kind of like, well, here's a cool set we built, or a cool miniature we built, where here it was like, oh yeah, here's just New York City and then a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a much more two-dimensional Mega City 1.
Yeah.
Whereas the Mega City 1, like, it's like, oh, there's stuff flying around.
Yeah.
There's people living in buildings that are, 200, 500 stories tall. Whereas this seems more like, oh, this is a slightly up-teched version of cities we have now.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot of technology in the Judge Dredd universe.
Yeah.
It doesn't come. This is just a post-apocalyptic dystopian world. But in the actual world of Judge Dredd, the reason there's so much unemployment is the robots are hugely advanced, and you don't have to do anything. And of course, I mean, you think, well, this will lead to a socialist utopia where everyone's happy, but this is set in America, so of course it's just 96% of the population lives in abject poverty, because it's like, well, yeah, that is the way it would go.
Well, also it's like it's a world, a post-apocalyptic world, but it has like twice the population we do now. It's like when you think about that, it's like, oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Dialogue in the beginning, 800 million people living in the ashes of the old world. They're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, how can you support 800 million people?
That's a lot of people. Well, you realize that there's no grown food in the Judge Dredd universe.
Yeah.
Like, because they're picking up bodies and stuff. It's like, yeah, they're not burying those. That's all being broken down for to be reused.
Yeah.
It's the world of Judge Dredd is an awful terrarium life cycle.
But somehow it's thriving. Well,
yeah,
yeah, so we open on Mega City 1, it's surrounded by a desert. Then we get the Dredd voiceover. It's like, America is an irradiated wasteland. Within it lies a city. Outside the boundary wall is a desert, a crushed earth. Inside the walls, a cursed city, stretching from Boston to Washington, D.C., an unbroken concrete landscape. 800 million people living in the ruin of the old world and the megastructures of the new one. Mega blocks, mega highways, mega city one, convulsing, choking, breaking under its own weight. Citizens in fear of the streets, the gun, the gang. Only one thing fighting for order in the chaos: the men and women of the Hall of Justice, juries, executioners, judges. So that's all you need to
Yeah,
know.
explains what's going on.
And then I think the titles fly in and break the screen open. Dredd. So, um, but there's got to be another movie just named Dredd, right? With Dread.
I mean, probably.
Because I wonder if we tell people like, what movies you watch this week? Dredd. They probably don't immediately go to Judge Dredd. That's probably not their thing. It's like, what horror movie was that? It was like was that in the like, was that one of those James Wan, it's like horror movies that came out? Is that like in between Insidious and The Conjuring? Dredd came out. Um. So yeah, then we have Dredd played by Carl Urban. He's getting ready, but he's like in darkness, so you don't see him. And he puts the helmet on. Then we titles Dredd. Okay, that's really good. The titles because that is a very character thing that Dredd did, which I guess is actually, um, like synonymous with the comics, is that you never see his face.
No.
So so like Carl Urban made the decision that the helmet will always stay on, and if if he continues to play the character, he'll never take it off. So that's like a thing from it. Because I guess I saw something that said that like somebody drew him without his helmet on, and they didn't like it, so they just put a censored bar over his face in the comic book, and so Dredd is always depicted with the helmet on.
Yeah.
But in the Sylvester Stallone one, he was constantly taking it off. So
Yeah. It's really hard to act
just your face or just your
part of your face showing.
Yeah, it turns.
I did RoboCop, and who had who said it was really hard? Oh, it was what was that one, the movie the Wachowskis did from the comic, where the guy was always in the Guy Fawkes mask.
Oh yeah, well they wrote that. Yeah.
What's that one called? Damn it.
Yeah, that's another one of those.
It's from the guy. It's from the comic book. The same guy did Watchmen. It's one of his. And I have the damn comic, and I can't think of what the name is. Anyway, yeah, because Hugo Weaving played that character, and he said it's you have to use dialogue, and it's really like you have to put a lot of you have to do dialogue in a certain way where you just you put a lot of meaning onto your words. It's very hard to act with a mask on.
Yeah.
That damn movie, yeah, because it's
V
gonna.
for Vendetta.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Yeah, so there was like, hey, this is a pretty good movie. What do you think of it? What's that guy's name? Alan something. What the hell? Yeah, what the hell?
Oh. Yeah. Can't think of his name either.
Oh, he's not even.
Bad to think about things.
Oh,
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Yeah, he's not even listed in the writing credits. So yeah, he must like no, don't even put my name in there. But Alan Moore hates everything that's adapted of his. But that
yeah. I mean, yeah, when Zack Snyder was talking about Watchmen, by the way, which was an actual really cool adaptation of that comic.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I hope one day Alan Moore will watch it and be like, that's not that bad. And then Alan Moore responds like, fuck you. Oh, I guess he is voted. I don't know if that really happened, but I heard that like that was kind of the response.
Yeah.
Which sounds Alan Moore like. I mean, he worships his own snake, and he thinks everyone's a sellout. So
yeah.
He's created his own god, and everyone's a sellout. It's like, okay, people like that are just difficult, and that's just who they are. Just to enjoy their work and have fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like he has some contention with adaptation or if it's a contention with like I should get way more money out of this.
Probably both.
Yeah, I mean he never mentions money as the thing he hates. It's always adaptation. So it's like, oh yeah,
He
great.
was contentious to work with.
Yeah.
Like if you go back into like the guys he was partnering with that were doing art and stuff with him on those comics, they're like, yeah, that's a one and done deal. It's like that's an experience, and then it's like, yeah, you want to do that again? Like, no. Some guys are just really passionate about their work and not about like let's get along. It's like no, they don't care about that. They just want to do the work, and that's it.
I mean, like Kubrick never really had repeat cast members, right? It's always like I'm never working with that guy ever again.
No, but I think it's because every movie after a certain point was like a new dreamscape that him and his wife created.
Yeah.
So they did want to use the same people.
Well, also it seemed like that, like if you did a Kubrick movie, you had to devote your life to it, and it never lifted up anybody's like prospects in Hollywood to do a Kubrick
No,
movie.
no,
It
it
was.
demands a lot of you. There's who are some big successes. That Jack Nicholson.
I mean, he was established by then, but
Yeah, and he was also frightening to Kubrick in a way. The way he would get into character was just like, okay, yeah, do that. Now I know Shelley Duvall, not such a big fan of Kubrick
I kind of
because he
like
was
Vincent
like,
D'Onofrio, like kind of took off from there, and he was just a side character.
yeah,
But like Matthew Modine, like basically had to like like shove away 6 years of roles just to do that movie. Like he probably would have been a bigger actor if he never did that movie, even though it's his most famous role. So.
oh yeah, but yeah. If you're working with Stanley Kubrick, it's your thing.
Yeah.
And then of course his last film was like just two giant stars. So
Yeah.
who also said, oh, he was amazing to work with, like pretty cool. Because I don't know if it was. It was Tom Cruise or if it was what's her name?
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman. One of them said they couldn't believe how like there's nothing you could talk about, and it's like, oh yeah, he knew like obscure wines from Spain. It's like, oh yeah, have you ever tried this one though? And it's like, how does he know that? And he's like, well, he's probably got an IQ of about 200, so he's just constantly
Oh
reading
yeah,
books.
yeah. He probably just needs new information at all times, so he probably just
Yeah,
knows way too much. So.
yeah. They said it was talking with Stanley Kubrick was even the small talk was intimidating because he like intimate knowledge of something you thought you and only your friends knew about. It's like, well, the real reason they made chess pieces that way. And it's like, oh wow, okay. But yeah, he had this house of books, I guess, too.
Yeah.
His house in England, like they just had so many books to take out of there after he died. It was just an insane amount of just on all different subjects. But anyway, it has nothing to do with this.
Well, I remember like Nicky Lauda. He was an F1 driver. He's featured in Rush as one of the guys. The guy gets caught on fire, and like he's talking about like like the end of an F1 driver's career. You're gonna be it's like, oh, you're 32. What are you gonna do with the rest of your life? and so like that guy, he was like, I think he was German. Yeah, I think he's German. So he just like because James Hunt kind of went on to like just kind of flounder with the rest of his career where he's just kind of like a celebrity and he just never really caught that high again, whereas Nicky Lauda like got into building an airplane company because it's like, oh, there's so much you can get into that, like you can get so deep into any of that, and like that's where you need to take your talents is into another place where you can just perfect everything. um yeah, we get the tiles break through. We come back. We have the DNA check on the gun. What was that called? The Peacekeeper or whatever.
Yes. Let me look that up.
So we have Schrodinger.
The Lawgiver Mark II.
Okay.
Which in this movie is just a Generation 4 Glock 17 with stuff grafted onto it.
Yeah, it's got like the gun barrel, and then there's kind of like a Blade Runner-esque like underbarrel grenade launcher thing on the front of it. That's like the kind of block on the front of it. That's not like a clip. That's just like where the grenade special bullets go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got Schrodinger's or not Schrodinger. We got I know the day. I'm thinking of the guy from Star Trek, but it's like cuts back to like Chekhov's gun. So now we got Chekhov's DNA check on the gun here. So it will come into play eventually. um, we get drones following gunfire. There's 3 wanted suspects. Dredd gives chase on his motorcycle, which is just a motorcycle with like the widest wheels that they can possibly put on a motorcycle. Not a lot of like churning on that thing, I'm guessing, but it'll stay on the road, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like if you see any like shot of the motorcycles in the comic book, they are like laughably large motorcycles.
Yeah, they're insane motorcycles. This was a Suzuki 750 GSX.
Okay.
It was modded out. There was actually like 8 of them made for different shots. But yeah, they just put a gigantic rear tires on it.
In some trivia, I said that Carl Urban insisted he had to. I'm not sure if he did all the motorcycle stunts, but he insisted he had to ride it. He had to be shown actually riding it. So,
Okay.
then we cut to inside the van of the suspects where they're doing the drug slow-mo, which we don't know what that is just yet, but which makes everything shiny and turns everything into slow motion. Really cool concept. They use it very well in this movie, and sparingly. It's only like 4 times. So, they see Dredd giving chase, and they start firing at him. The van hits and kills a pedestrian, and so Dredd shoots their tire out. The van rolls. A couple of the people die in the van, but one guy runs off. Dredd sees the slow-mo inhaler, so he's like, you're already just picking up on things. Like, okay, that's a drug. This is what's happening. We got to chase this guy because he's violent. They run into one of the buildings, which every building in Dredd is just like a giant skyscraper that's just full of people. Like, it's not just like, it's not a business building. This is a place where people live. And inside of it is like its own city. So, so yeah, the guy runs in the building. He's just like killing people along the way. Then he holds up a hostage and waits for Dredd. Dredd negates brutally and not well. It's like, because you're supposed to know it's like, oh, Dredd's like one of the best and judges in this world. And then you see like him at work, and it's like he does not diffuse situations. But he's good. He's great at killing people, and he knows innocent people. He knows who innocent people are, mostly. So yeah, the guy doesn't like, because he just offers him like, I'll give you life imprisonment. And he's like, you're gonna give me life imprisonment as like in exchange for me not killing this woman? It's like that doesn't seem like a great deal. And then he just shoots the guy. Well, he calls him Hot Shot, but then he says like, "What's that?" And then he says like, "Hot Shot" again, and then we see the gun load up a Hot Shot round, and it's basically just like a flare round or whatever. And he shoots it in the guy's mouth and basically like melts his head from the inside out. So, and then the woman who was hostage right next to that guy's head is like, kind of thankful. It's like, thank you? Question mark.
It's like when Dredd's walking through that complex. This is when you get an idea of what kind of world it is, because there's people shot up all over the place, dead. There's blood everywhere, and he's like, "Yeah, the perpetrators like killed multiple people. We need recycle teams here and a cleanup." So it's like, yeah, they're just recycling these bodies, like they're taking them somewhere.
Yeah, we need a meat wagon here. Which I'm not sure if that's just for the recycle. Yeah, if the meat wagon is the recycle crew, or if it's got to be a part of like. What do you think they either bother with like? I mean, I'm guessing because they're judges, they don't bother with a court system and like autopsies and stuff like that. They just kind of play it by play it by hand.
There's no need for an autopsy. The criminals, they've already been adjudicated, killed, or signed to cryo freeze or whatever. Oh yeah, there's no like secondary. Well, because what do they say when they start out? It's like, we respond to like 12% or 7% of the calls that come in. on any given day. So yeah.
Yeah, they respond to 6% of the crime in Mega City 1, and like what judges are hurt and killed in like 80% of the responses.
Yeah, it's some insane. This is essentially anarchy.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, this isn't approaching any kind of equilibrium whatsoever. We cut to we're at the Hall of Justice. Um, what's it called in Justice League? Is it also called the Hall of Justice?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We get Cassandra Anderson, played by Olivia Thirlby. Which, in looking up Wikipedia stuff, she is like a character in the comic book. I
Yeah.
think she's introduced in the. I think one of the more famous runs was when it's Dredd versus Death,
Yeah.
and I think that's when she comes and she has psychic abilities. Which yeah, here they'll present her psychic abilities, but then everybody calls her a mutant, which I don't know if mutant is a special thing in the Dredd world. It's just kind of mentioned here, but you don't really see like too many like strange people in this world.
Yeah, you see people like in what was that movie? Oh, the other Verhoeven, like the
Oh,
mutants Mars
yeah,
on.
Total Recall.
Yeah, you don't see Total Recall mutants,
Yeah,
but yeah, apparently like her family grew up near the protective wall, which means they got more radiation.
yeah.
So it's yeah, this is still in the era where radiation, could
Both kill
imbibe.
you or give you magical superpowers. So.
Yeah, it's like in the real world, it just kills you. But yeah.
Chief Judge, who doesn't have a name, she's just a Chief Judge. Says as an orphan she was given a judge aptitude test and she failed it, but because they know she has psychic abilities, like we think there's something in her, so it's kind of a good like underdog situation to put her in.
That little backstory, it takes 15 years to make a judge. They're all taken as children.
Oh, okay,
And
all right.
not something you do as an adult. It's like the state takes ward of the state children, and basically if they think they can make it as judges, they basically are trained from the time they're children until they're adults to be judges.
Oh, okay. I thought this is Anderson, like like recently out of like boot camp or something like that. But you're saying she's been trained since she was a child to do this?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay. uh,
But then you find out in the Judge Dredd comics, it's like, well, that's also there's a lot of cloning and things like that going
yeah.
on too. But yeah,
Yeah, they get it. I don't know. They probably get more into the world in the Stallone Dredd movie, but it ends up being more silly than interesting. So,
yeah,
Anderson reads Judge Dredd. She's just like, it's almost like he's a blank canvas with nothing but anger.
yeah.
But
She sense anger and control and something else, and then the chief judge is like, "Okay, that's enough. Yeah, we don't want to talk about this something else."
Yeah, I can't remember. Like Dredd's like a clone or something, right? Or something. There's some.
Oh, that's according to the yeah, he is. Yeah,
Okay.
the comic, because in the comic he ages as the comic ages, so like he's like currently 80 years old. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I only other remember because I don't think I've ever had any Judge Dredd comic books. I just know of like those. So that's just the one movie and some other stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, there he's like, Armand Desante's like his brother or something, but they were all like clones or something. But
yes,
then they had the robot stuff, and it's all like, it's all played up where it's like, I see how the society is like, see, Judge Dredd, you're also actually a victim, but you don't care, and you like persecuted people anyways. But
yeah,
it's supposed to be that, but it didn't hold weight there. So Dredd's to take her out for evaluation for a day. So that being into Act 1, moving right along with this movie. So got Act 2. Dredd is taking the rookie out for the day and explains basically she'll probably be dead or fail training by the end of the day. So that's again, like you said, they're like they respond to 6% of the calls, and like basically, yeah, like any call you respond to, there's like an 80% chance you'll be dead or like maimed or something like that, which seems crazy. We get a shot of the Peachtree megastructure, which is just a giant Just a giant skyscraper with people in it.
96,000 people.
90. Okay. Yeah,
I think that's what they said.
I
Yeah, I
have
think it was.
75,000 people written,
Okay,
but
maybe it's 90 for
still a
6.
lot. um, yeah, it's just got like it's got a like the whole center is open, and then it's
Yeah.
like built around the because like there's a light at there's a opening at the top that lets light through, and so yeah, there's nothing in the center, and then there's just like these quarters of where people live. Um, Then we get Mama, played by Lena Headey, is smoking slow mo in a bathtub, which again, this looks really cool. Looks like she's like bathing in milk with how it looks.
One of the interesting commentaries I heard about this movie is the only thing that nice things that happen in this movie is when people are under the influence of drugs. This world looks kind of beautiful in a strange way
Yeah.
because once the drugs wear off, it's just like dirty hell. Someone described this movie as like violent, brutal, and unendearing. Like I read the reviews of people that really hated this movie too, and I
Yeah.
wanted to see why. And they said it looked like they were living inside a sewer. It's like, well, yeah, it's actually a fair assessment of what it did look like.
Mama's got a big scar on her face, which we'll explain later on. Somebody comes in and says they got trouble. So it's like some guys are selling drugs like in competition. So then they have them skinned, hit with slow mo, and thrown off the balcony. So like for them, perception wise, it takes forever to hit the ground, and presumably they're feeling also the effects of being skinned alive the entire time. So, which they'll bring this back.
Yeah, this doesn't just happen once. Yeah. Don't waste it.
This will be a great callback later on in the movie. So the call goes out for 3 murders in Peachtree, which I don't know. Does everyone have like a tracker on them, or is this just like the building picking up that there's been murders here?
I think somebody called it in because there's
Oh,
bodies on the floor.
okay. Well, because they also have like the wireframe like computer imaging of the bodies on the ground, so it's like, yeah, there's the bodies. So I don't know if they just got eyes on it or if they're alerted to it. And then of course they had anything they could have responded to, but this is what Anderson picks up to respond to. So the judges head off to Peachtree, which here they explain there's 75,000 people live in Peachtree. They arrive at the bodies and they look them over. Here's where they explain the slow-mo drug, which is like a new drug taking over everybody, and we've already seen like the effects it has, which again, like you said, like seems kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like the only nice thing going on.
We don't know like the side effects of it, other than like it burns your mouth when you inhale it.
Yeah, you have messed up teeth.
Yeah.
So they make like meth in that way.
Yeah.
Like or crack, I guess. I guess crack would mess your teeth up too.
Yeah.
I don't know, never done either of those. I mean, these look like they're using like some kind of asthma inhaler with a weird brown liquid.
Yeah.
So
they learned of the Mama game. What is it? It's in the Fallout games. Jet is the drug that's done from an inhaler, so this is very Jet.
okay.
Although I can't remember what Jet does in the game. I can't remember if it boosts you up or like you can get addicted to it if you use too much Jet, but yeah, it'll boost your stats. But if you use it too much, you'll be addicted. So yeah, learn of the Mama clan, where basically there used to be like 3 levels of gangs here, but she's now taken over the entire mega block, and she's like branching out into other mega blocks, which we'll learn later on. She used to be a sex worker that got cut up, and then from that like became extra violent and took over the drug gangs. So she found a new line of work. So
she castrated her pimp.
Yeah, with her teeth.
With her teeth.
So yeah, she took over the whole block, and judges don't come here often, so she's used to just getting her way. Then we cut to like some youths to get drugs at like some. I wrote no apartment. I don't know why it's. I wrote department. So no, it's just some apartment. There's also where we learn that Helmet interferes with Anderson's psychic abilities because she says because like Dredd's like evaluating her is like, Oh, now you're gonna remember that you forgot your helmet at your bike. And she's like, no, interferes with my psychic abilities. Um,
I guess I was watching an interview. Carl Urban found it very hard to deliver lines in the Dredd voice,
yeah.
so they had to be very sparing with like retakes. Notice a lot of the time he's talking, the camera's just directly on him,
Yeah.
even if other characters are interacting like kind of off, because he's like he would literally like burn his throat
Oh
up
yeah.
trying to just to talk like this all the
Just
time.
gravelly.
It's yeah, really hard.
The judgment is death.
Yeah.
See, I'm already coughing.
Oh yeah, no one talks like that unless they've been shot in the throat or something like that.
Apparently, there's a way you can do that safely. Because, you got those, like, 40-year-old, like, scream metal bands where it's like, well, that guy shouldn't be able to talk now. But apparently, there is a safe way to. You have to prep yourself, but there is a safe way to do that gravelly nonsense rather than just where the end of the day you're not just voiceless and like I better sleep for the next week to get back from this.
But I need to research that then, is I'm going to start talking like that all the time.
There's a great YouTube channel called now I'm forgetting what it's called. I'll have to go YouTube because it's a great like it's a very pleasant channel where she reviews like voices of like singers, but like always the best thing to watch is when people make her review like death metal singers and she has to
Okay.
go there and try to like find a positive, and then she actually goes to it was like, oh no, they're actually like great singers, they're just not like rewarded for their weirdness, like, oh, this sounds gravelly and like weird, and she's like, oh no, but they're doing that intentionally. Like it's actually fantastic.
Yeah.
What's it called? It's like something like the lovely voice or something like that. Let's see here. The voice is going to give me the absolutely wrong thing. I want. Oh man, like YouTube is just failing me right now everywhere. The charismatic voice.
Charismatic voice. Okay.
Yeah, look that up. Yeah, it's this lady. She has like red-haired lady who literally looks like a Disney princess, and then talks about like people singing. Although it's also funny because if you know anything about like, some of these bands she talks about, it's like she got like half information. It's like, well, that backstory she just told is wrong, but whatever. She's great, very pleasant. Um, let's see here. Where the So yeah, we got used going to get drugs, slow mo at some apartment. The Dredd puts like this shape charge on the door to bust it open, which like we cut to the inside where the guys are taking the slow mo drugs, and we see like the door get busted open by the charge, and we just see like, I don't know how they did this. You basically just see like it almost looks like an animation of like this guy being like blown away, but he's not like being ripped apart. It's just like air like contorting his body in slow motion.
Yeah.
It's like really weird and disconcerting. As you're like, okay, that guy's probably dead. And he didn't even take shrapnel. It's just pure like blast. um, and then yeah, we get some stuff in slow motion, but basically like Anderson and Dredd come in and basically kill everybody that are holding guns, and then they take everybody else hostage. Which I think Anderson kills people here, so she feels bad about like executing people later on, but here because it's like, very immediate, and it's like, oh, it's dangerous, then she doesn't have a problem with it. But like if you have to look somebody in the eye who can't really kill you, and then you just kill them immediately, she has a problem with that. So. And it gets worse.
Yeah.
Who was that guy? Uh-oh. I guess that'd be weird for her. She has empathy. Like maybe that's a problem if you're a psychic and you have empathy and you kill people and read their minds at the same time. But it seems like she has to concentrate to read the minds. She's not just like aimlessly pulling in every thought, right? At least not what was presented here. So
That could be, yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure how deep she goes, but like I said, it's such a violent, horrible world.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Also, a lot of cheek shooting in this scene.
Yeah.
A lot of people getting shot through the cheek and just dying because some people just the bullet get through a cheek like sideways, and some people it's like it went through their cheek and then into their brain and then out the skull. um. Then yeah, they take hostage K, played by Wood Harris, who you most know like from oh man, I'm forgetting his name. He was in the Wire.
Yeah.
That was his
I
most
thought that's
famous character.
nice.
Oh, I can't remember. It's not Stringer Bell was Idris Elba, who was Alex Wood. What's his name? Did I write his name? Wood Harris. Who's Alex Wood? What's that person? But yeah, this would have been around probably near the end of the run of the Wire. Avon Barksdale, that's who he played.
Okay.
He was the partner of Idris Elba's Stringer Bell character, so who gets put in and out of jail constantly, and then eventually usurped by the one guy. Okay, yeah, so she reads Kay's mind, basically learns like, oh, he killed the three guys we're looking for. So this is this is we're in the oh yeah, forgot to mention part like as they walk into peach trees, there's a guy who's like sitting there like with a sign like help me please or something like that, and comically, Dredd tells him like or he asked the rookie is like like what is this like vagrancy, it's like 6 months in the cryo cube or something like that, which we don't know what the cryo cube means, so that's purely up for you to like how bad that is. um
I'm guessing it's like being frozen.
yeah, but like is that physically bad, is it mentally bad, like
Might actually be better than living in Mega City
yeah, that's
1.
what I'm wondering. Because it also doesn't seem to deter anything.
No.
So um so yeah, he says like when we come back we want you gone, which will again a lot of good callbacks in this movie, like present something that has an option later on. I mean even when we're walking into into peach trees, we see like there's like an outcropping in the middle of the building that I'm not sure if it was made this way or the kids had turned it into a half pipe, but they're skateboarding on this outcropping of the building, which will then be a part later on in the movie. So yeah, they know Kay killed these guys. A meat wagon gets called in. And then some computer junkie spots the judges and like talking to Kay, and so he calls back to Mama, and then Mama takes over the facilities and to the control room and hacks into it, and so they call in like a shutdown test, and they activate war protocols, which just like closes the top hatch, which lets sunlight in, and like basically just armors the whole, drops all these big blast shields or whatever for a war protocol or whatever, which I'm guessing is meant to like withstand nuclear weapons or something. Like who knows?
That's what I was assuming. Yeah, because it does seem like just like some kind of over flash protection or something.
Yeah. And this is where like and like they have and like Anderson and Dredd are about to walk out the door, which here is where he spots the one vagrant guy's like, "Hey, I told you to get lost," and the door just smashes him and kills him immediately.
And neither one of them really
No.
react. It's like, well, that's the next thing.
Which again, I guess if you're an upbeat and looking hopeful person, like that's the part where you're out of this movie, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
He won.
there's no redemption. There's no pause. Like it's just constant, like horrorness throughout this entire movie. Yeah, there's nothing positive about Mega City 1 other than like it seems to hold a lot of people. So
Yeah. A lot of fun people to meet.
uh, let's see here. The building locks down completely, not allowing anyone in or out, and also like their comms don't get out, which is kind of weird because like don't they have like they called in the meat wagon, but it never gets there, right?
I don't know.
I mean, it
It
gets there
didn't
at the
respond
end,
quickly. Yeah.
but like you figure like somebody should know they're here, and but like they don't. We don't get people showing up till like an hour later. But you know, again, like they already show you that like you know only 6% of the calls get responded to. But I imagine if a judge calls in, they respond to it. But oh well, you know, we don't have to get into the logic of that. So.
Well, it could be because you remember they had to have the argument about the war protocol and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
we
right. Yeah.
pulled a permit for this, so like the city thinks something official's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the sun gets shut out, the lights get turned on. Ma talks to the block on the intercom and says she wants the judges dead. So now it's like basically either you kill the judge or you hide away. That's like your option. Um, so the judges move out towards the medical center because that's the only place they know where it's like, well, this could be a respite, and then it's not. We show armed people are running down the stairs after them. They lay down a gas screen and shoot the guys as they're overcome with gas. So they just tell Kay, hold your breath, and like, um, and I know like because there was a movie called The Raid, which people compare this a lot to, which it is. It's like The Raid, but it's also like Die Hard. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't necessarily know why it's immediately they compare it to The Raid. I'm guessing just because they're pretty close in proximity of when they were made. But and
I mean, people shooting their way through a building is like that's there's a lot of movies you can see
this
that
is a
that's
yeah. This is a genre movie. I mean, they're both great movies. So yeah, if you watch this and you like this, watch The Raid. It's not a sci-fi movie, and go ahead and watch The Raid too. That's good as well.
yeah.
And if you're on it, just watch Ong Bonk. It's just a great action martial arts movie. Um. Let's see here. I wrote there's some guy blocking their path and Dredd just stun grenades them. I can't remember. Oh yeah, they go in shooting. I think this is just right outside the medical center. So they stun them and shoot all these guys. This is where Anderson has to execute a guy who's like slowly trying to pull his revolver up to kill her. He's like, "What do you say, rookie?" And then she reluctantly just blasts him in the head. They talk to the paramedic, but he won't let the judges in. So he's like, "Hey, I'm not on anyone's side, but this is a medical facility, so I gotta worry about that." So they keep moving on. They hear more gang members looking for them, and so Anderson uses her psycho abilities to trick a lady to letting him into her room. Because she like listens for her and she's able to like pick up her name. And she's like, you know, like, "Hey, Catherine, let us in." Which seems very manipulative, but it's like, well, they're trying to not die, so they're literally the only people on their side. Um, so yeah, she lets him in the apartment. And they kind of like hold her up. Like I think Anderson goes in and covers her mouth, but then it's like, no, she's not going to scream. And so she gives him info on a service elevator that will take him up more levels. But this is also like when they're about to leave, Anderson realizes like the lady's husband was the guy she just executed. So it's like, oh, that's a bummer. So yeah, she tries to say something just like, well, nothing's gonna fix this. So I'm just gonna leave. So it's already learning how to be a judge. It's like, well, nothing's gonna fix this. Move on. um. Then we cut to we get Mama and Caleb, which is like her right hand man. He talks about expansion, so they're like expanding their drug business into another mega block. The tech guy comes in and gives them an update about how like they're not stopping the judges, so they lock the judges in an area and they send people their way. Dredd tells Anderson to hold up while he goes hunting. So like Kay and her are like held up behind this like I don't know extra like thick concrete wall. Dredd's moving through the level.
Some structure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everyone's looking through the doors and trying to stay out of it. Like there's basically an eye behind every door, but like nobody can get let in. And then anybody who's outside is basically hunting the judges. We come back to Kay is trying to scare Anderson about what the clan will do to her, and then he's trying to use her psychic abilities against her by thinking up of like really screwed up things. But then she's like, it's like, I live in this world, right? It's like this isn't the first time I've seen this. Then we see the gang has set up like a wall of miniguns like across the way, and then they just unload and kill a bunch of innocent people. Like eventually, yeah, they say like this whole quarter of this level has just been saturated entirely with gunfire from these miniguns. It's like
Yeah, I
that's
mean, they're just
insane.
firing these indoors,
Yeah.
like, and just killing everybody.
Yeah.
They're just
Which that's why I say like the wall they have K and Anderson behind is like extra thick because it seems to handle some of these bullets longer than every other structure in this. um, but yeah, it's just a long like it's like 5 minutes of miniguns unloading and then just Dredd running away. And then yeah, and just people just being caught in the crossfire.
and to being blown to bits
Yeah,
too. I
yeah.
mean, it doesn't linger on it, but you can tell.
There's a lot of digital squibs in like gunfire in this movie, but it's done really well, and it seems to have like nobody learned from this movie. It seems to have only gotten worse from this movie. Like, so I don't know what they did right here, but it hasn't like carried forward enough. So, or maybe it's just not enough violent movies like this that they employ it like this. Um, um, 'cause I remember what was it? Only God Forgives, one of those like Nicholas Winding Refn movies where they had like a bunch of digital squibs. It was like, well, this is violent, but this looks bad. it's,
Yeah,
it's,
it's like this isn't selling me on this violence.
I mean, this looks like as bad as much. You look like they had as much money as they did to make Ichi the Killer to like do their digital squibs.
Right.
um. So yeah, Dredd runs back and takes cover behind this bulkhead or whatever, and then it's also getting torn up by the miniguns. Then Dredd sees some light that one of the bullets went through the outer wall, and so he shoots an explosive at the open hole, and then like it blows a bigger hole in the building, and then they just leap out onto the skateboard ramp on the side of the building, which is lucky here because it's like the only outcropping on this building. um, which yeah, those skateboarders are just stuck outside; they can't go anywhere. I guess now there's a hole in the boat and they get back up there. But is it like snowing out there? Because it's like night by this time, right?
I don't know if it's snowing or if it's just pollution. I'm not
Okay.
sure how dark this world is, but
It looked cold at that time when they get out there. So, um, but when they get back out, their comms are back. Dredd gives an update, but they can't wait for backup, so they got to go back into the building. Um, yeah, we have this kind of there's kind of this moment where like Mama's like looking at this completely devastated thing, and then just Dredd kind of walks out of the darkness, grabs one of the gang members, and just throws him off the edge of the balcony, and then kind of like walks away with Mama looking. It's very just like, well, I'm not dead. Come at me. So, um, then we cut to they stop in a classroom where Dredd interrogates Kay. He really just beats him up and thinks he might know something valuable. It's like, yeah, it's like Dredd's not good at interrogation. He's not good at diplomacy. So it's like,
yeah.
he's very good at intimidation and killing. So, and yeah, I guess a good improviser and tactician. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Anderson gets inside of Kay's head. There's a bunch of sex and violence imagery here. Anderson gets the lead on the slow-mo production, which I guess is produced here. So it's like, it's like a family-grown drug here in Peachtree. We got slow-mo. It's invading the city. So, then we cut to the tech guys being held under knife to talk the backup judges off the scene because we do get like 3 judges that show up at Peachtree's. And so he's able to talk them. Well, he's kind of like he kind of delays them because they're still there. Like moment, we'll see them come back. We'll see them there like 10 minutes from now. Um, Dredd and Anderson go over potential option: run, hide, or fight. Dredd wants to go after Mama, which like Anderson's like, well, wouldn't the the prudent thing be to wait for backup? And then like, I guess over the the history that Dredd has is like backup's not coming. So
Yeah.
the thing they won't expect is a full frontal assault. So we'll do that. Well, I'm not sure how frontal it is. Um, there's some kids that are like scared with guns that are trying to kill the judges. Um, but here this like distracts people, and then Kay's able to get his hands in front of him, grabs Anderson, and gets in the elevator. And then Dredd just stuns the kids. So he's so he's like, so killing kids is a little bit over the line, but I bet he kills kids a bunch in in the comic book. I don't know.
Depends on what they're doing.
Yeah. He shows he has a little empathy, but yeah, but here they did make a point early on in this movie, like, if you lose your gun as a judge, then that's like disqualification as being a judge. So like, oh, she's already failed her test. But also she's being captured by violent gangsters and taken to them, so that's also not great. So we cut to Kay talks to Kay takes her to Mama. Ma's mad and punches Kay, but says she needs him because she just had like a bunch of guys get killed by Dredd and them. So, Mom wants to stage a bust gone wrong, and so like they can't like it's like you can't just rape and kill this judge. We got to kill him with bullets and make it look like it was just a drug bust. So like Kay's mad. It's like I don't get to torture everybody. It's like, then we have the tech is tracing Dredd as Dredd hacks into the intercom. He gives a speech to the block, which you think this is going to be like a moment of like reassurance that like cops are here and we're going to help you, but it's not. It's just a threat, a vague threat to the whole block and a directed threat to Mama. So, oh, what does he say? Is this where he says like I am the or oh what's
Yeah.
I am the law, or what's the other things, or like the judgment is death? What is it? He says a lot of things here. So.
Yeah, I forget what he says. He's basically like, my fight's not with you. Stay out of my way. Yeah. Mama is charged with multiple homicide and running a drug manufacturing operation. The sentence is death. Yeah. And then he's like, you're not the law. I'm the law.
Yeah, which I think Sylvester Stallone says that goofily in the Judge Dredd he does, and so here it's more of a badass statement. Like, yeah. I'm the law. So yeah, they trace Dredd, and then they send some guys after him. They shoot at the booth, but Dredd's not inside, and so you see him like he's like across the way, and he uses one of his flame bullets and just burns all these gangsters alive. Oh.
It basically shoots what looks like a flare.
Yeah, like a flare, but also it's like a white phosphorus like grenade.
Yeah, it's using white phosphorus on it. It's supposed to be bad.
And then we get like a great line because the Caleb says like, how are we gonna stop this guy? And then Mama says, call 911. And you're like, what's that mean? So I've been in Act 2. We got Act 3. Just moving along here. More judges show up at Peachtree's. And these guys get let in. And then, like, the one guy's at the doors. They just kind of, like, stand by. Which here they just walk up and they say, like, let us in. And they open up the door. So it's kind of showing them, like, oh, these are the badass judges. But also you just know, like, what's going to happen is like, oh, these are judges are being bought off. The medic comes out thinking like, oh, they got backup. So he tells them what's going on. And then he just gets immediately executed by the judges. So again, just immediately, hey, what are your thoughts? These guys are on the take. I was like, we'll immediately let you know. So yeah, these judges make a deal with Mama for 1 million credits to kill Dredd, which that's split amongst 4. So I don't know how much a credit's worth, but it doesn't seem like it's enough maybe. But
well, it's like because they say like once the judges because they're like, how much do you want? and he's like, 1,000,000, and she's like, 1,000,000, huh? And one of the main judge, I think it's Judge Lex, I'm not
Yeah,
sure. He's like, "Do you know who that is? 1,000,000." It's like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's a great way to make your protagonist you seem even more badass. When even like the other cops are afraid of him. So yeah, Dredd is unaware he's being pursued by judges, but then he just quickly comes across another judge, and they kind of like like, hey, you're a judge, I'm a judge, but then he becomes suspicious really quickly because how he like said something, how something was called in is like, well, you wouldn't know that, and so they have a fight. Dredd gets the upper hand and just caves this guy's throat in. Like you can see
yeah,
it like churn inward, which he dies for like 8 minutes because like the other Dredd like judges come upon him and he's still like staggering. um then we cut to Kay is going over Anderson's stuff and he grabs the judge gun and plays around with it. And then Kay tries to shoot Anderson with a gun, and of course the ID fails and blows up his hand, which I'm guessing he's dead, but he's technically just amputated here. So.
yeah,
um, but yeah, he's presumably dead. And then Anderson escapes, um, and kills it. What I don't know. They have that in the. I'm guessing that's a thing for the book, 'cause that's also in the Judge Dredd movie about like not everybody. Only a judge can use the gun. I
yeah.
can't remember. Does it just like shock them or does it kill them too? It doesn't blow up in the original Judge Dredd, does it? I can't remember.
I always remember people getting shocked,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
But this is a much grittier Judge Dredd, so it's like, yeah, it just blows up.
Okay.
It gets with one less weapon because there seems to be no. I don't know what kind of legal system they're operating under in this, but there is no shortage of firearms in this universe. Everyone has some kind of firearm of the 20th century, but and in the further lore of the book, it's like or the comic books, it's a completely automated society, so you could just build those.
Okay. Um.
Podcast.
Anderson escapes and kills a couple of guards on the way out. We cut to Dredd happens on the slow-mo manufacturing facility, which two other judges go after Dredd here. There's some banter about how much a judge costs, which he says like 1,000,000 split 4 ways, and I think Dredd goes, well, 3 ways now. Dredd's running out of bullets, which that would make sense. He's killed
Yeah.
a lot of people so far, and he has no reloads. He kills one of the judge with a headshot of high explosive, which is this is one of the bigger judges, and he just has like this giant shotgun. Which I don't know, it doesn't really look like a like extra futuristic. It's just a big shotgun this guy has. So.
Yeah, it's some kind of Beretta
Oh, okay, all right.
shotgun that was reclad for the movie. It's actually not functional. It was so reclad, but
Then we cut to Anderson runs into a judge, and the judge is like, "Hey there, rookie, you're back up." And then they have when she uses her psychic ability, just kind of like this sound, like kind of like a wave pulse ping that goes out, and then just immediately, you know what that means. Anderson read her mind, knows she's against her, and she just kills that judge and moves on. Like doesn't think about it. It's like, oh no, like no second thought. It's like, all right, moving on. So yeah, she's now becoming more of a judge, I guess. Um, we see cut back to Dredd. He gets shot through a wall with an armor-piercing round, so he goes down. Which this is it's like, oh, well, that's the end of Dredd. And then, oh, I just lost my place. Dredd says, "Wait!" Like as the guy's holding up to him, which the other judge finds comical, and then goes off on a rant. And then Dredd just says, like, "I told you to wait so she can shoot you," which I like. How long was Anderson standing there?
yeah, into the conversation.
But it's still a fun moment. So yeah, now all the other judges are dead, so I don't have to worry about them anymore. Dredd does a field dressing and grabs some ammo, which is he's got like a little like auto sewing kit thing that just sews them up. Oh no, it's got like this special, like they kind of like they put like the string through the wound, and then it'll just kind of like pull itself. And
It's
so
like self-suturing
yeah,
like wound kit.
just pours a bunch of like whatever gauze or whatever to stop the bleeding. So and here we got another callback. Yeah, because earlier when they go into Peachtree, he goes like, "Are you ready?" And she goes, "Yeah." It's like, "You don't look ready. You look nervous." And it's like, "Oh, it's just like adrenaline." So here he calls that back, and he says, "Ready?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You look ready." So it's a good, that's the best like a pat on the back that Dredd can do. So so Dredd and Anderson kick in the door of the techie. Anderson looks into his mind to get like Mama's door code. Also, she sees like how the techie was like tortured and tells him to go, because we do have the shot of her. They have like this montage of her like committing violence on people, and there's like one guy with like, his eyes ripped out, and it's like, oh, that's the techie. That's what his eyes were ripped out. Because they cut to this guy, you see he has like some special like, like mechanical eyes or something like that. It's like, oh, she just rip this guy's eyes out to put special ones in for some reason to make him better at his job, and then gives him drugs, and then just uh, like like threatens violence on him all the time. So basically Anderson sees all that and she's like, yeah, he's not a victim, so we're just gonna let him go. And he's what does Dredd say? It's like, was it like the judgment for abetting a felon is death or something like that? Or I can't remember. Or if his
I
life in
think
prison.
he said, ask her if it's like, would you like to explain that? And she's like, well, he's not a criminal, he's a
Yeah.
victim. And being as I'm still on my probationary period and allowed to dispense judgment, that's my judgment.
Yeah.
And
Well, she also said she already failed, so because she lost her primary weapon, so it's like, well, it doesn't matter. So that's
that actor is Brendan Gleeson's son.
huh.
I didn't know. I wouldn't have put that together unless I looked that up in the trivia.
Huh. Um. So we get Dredd and Anderson get into Mama's floor, and they start a shootout with the guards. You see Mama puts something on her wrist, and then Dredd and Anderson shoot the rest of the guards. Anderson gets hit like in the side or whatever, or no, it was the shoulder shot. Yeah, it's out. It doesn't kill her, but she's down. And then Mama explains that the floor is filled with explosives, and then if the tracker senses her heart stopping, then like it'll blow up 50 floors, which basically means it'll take down the whole building. I'm guessing. So, Dredd shoots her in the side, and she falls down on the bed. Dredd is making the bet that the transmitter can't transmit far enough if he throws her off the balcony,
Yep.
which is just a great gamble. um. So he sentences her, gives her some slow mo. So this call back to when they did to those guys, and throws her through a window, which you get her slow mo falling and ethereal music as she falls like 200 floors face first to her death. So
And they actually show like through, like if the floor was glass, like her face actually her skull starting to split.
open, yeah.
And then they just cut away, and it's like, yeah, this is an R-rated movie. This
But
is an evil character.
yeah, I mean, what a fantastic end to your bad guy in a movie.
Yeah.
This might be one of the greatest action movie endings of all time. Because you think like, what's a great ending to an action movie? Die Hard. They throw the guy off the building and he's scared as he falls on his way down. It's like, how can you one up that? It's like, what if you hit somebody with a sci-fi drug and they fell forever face first into the pavement? It's like, yep, that's better.
It's just a guy with no regard for it. It's like, well, the sentence was death. The form of death is like,
irrelevant.
yeah, it's just death.
Uh,
Doesn't matter if it's horrifying or shoot him in the head. No, it's
and you get like the weight of the moment is like, is the bomb gonna go off? And you just kind of Dredd just kind of shrugs for a moment. It's like, bomb didn't go off. I was right, because you see the little tracker go red, which presumably means set off the explosives. But her body's too far away to set off the explosives.
yeah.
Uh,
Which is like limited range transmitters again is a big gamble in this universe.
but it's also like great like kind of like to, because you feel like, oh, there's another movie in here because she has like this card up her sleeve, and then it's just immediately remedied. It's like, don't worry, I don't care about that.
Yeah, where's it going to go now? Is Dredd going to trick her and get the thing off of her? No, he's going to shoot her and throw her through a window. Just kind of watch.
Yeah, and kind of be satisfied with himself, like, huh, that worked.
Be damned.
We get the close up of like her face, hitting like basically the camera, like it's so, and you can kind of like intimate her head splitting open, but basically like the whole camera lens is just filled with blood at that point. So
Yeah.
So yeah, they take the elevator down. Dredd dresses Anderson's wound. The blast doors open up and let light into the building. There's the meat wagons and judges outside waiting to clean up and presumably recycle all these bodies into stuff. So,
and I'm assuming Dredd's giving a report on the way down because the judges and all these people just start walking in. Nobody speaks to him or Anderson.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess they know, or just maybe this is how they interact in this world.
And Dredd just turns to Anderson and says, like, her assessment is over. And so Anderson just hands over her badge and walks away. And then Dredd talks to the high judge and asks whether she pass or fail. And so Dredd passes her without her knowing it. But then we cut to a voiceover. It's Mega City 1, 800 million people living in the ruin of the old world and the mega structures of the new one, which is actually kind of like, that's a more positive statement than the original one at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was like the new world wasn't like something to like look forward to. It's not presented that way. It's just all, this is the ruins. Which, like, Peachtree isn't a ruin. That seems like a kind of a magical building that, even though kind of falling apart and weird, seems to function.
Yeah.
Only thing fighting for order in the middle of the chaos, judges. And then we see Anderson carrying a helmet and taking off on a cruiser, presumably, oh, she's a judge now. So that's the end of Dredd.
Total body count in this movie, 145 people killed.
Okay.
Dredd's personal body count, 119.
Oh, okay.
Killed.
I didn't think it was that high. But yeah, just a great example of a genre movie, kind of a mixing of genres like sci-fi and cop stuff, and you can say this is Die Hard and the Raid and all that, but it's unto itself a great movie. 96 minutes, get in and out. Again, not a happy movie, but it's a cool action movie. So,
yeah,
and some stuff you've never seen before. So
yeah, it's a very bleak world that they live in.
One of the most like spectacle, horrible deaths for a character that's seen as like, oh, that was cool. But yeah, we never did get another Dredd movie. I kind of doubt that series will ever get made. I don't even know where the franchise lies at this point, but it's a...
Well, the people that own the rights to it say they will not close the door on the idea. And of course, Carl Urban is always a cheerleader for it. But, and it's probably something, I don't know, it's maybe something they could pull off. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of buzz around this movie now. I mean, everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have an exposure problem. I just don't know if people would want to. Some people just don't. Like I said,
yeah,
the
do
negative.
You want to explore this world? That's the hard thing. It's like the answer is no.
Because what I found interesting, the negative reviews of this movie that I also consider valid are that it is terrifyingly bleak and violent in a way that is jarring to the senses. Like, it's not. You've seen sci-fi violence. You've seen, this is like more like RoboCop kind of violence. Like, it's very shocking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like general shooting and stuff, but there's some very specific stuff that goes on. It's like, wow, that's horrifying.
Well,
That is
well, again,
the
like that
kick.
end death is like the most like one of the most violent deaths, but it's also like almost celebratory in how it's done.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of requiem theme they play. You're sad that Mama's dead, but she had to die because Judge Dredd said so. She
this
was
is
an
yeah,
evil,
this is
evil person.
I don't know. Do you ever see that picture where they call it the most beautiful death, where some lady jumps off a building and she's like smashed into a car, and like because you can't see the underside of her, she looks like a supermodel that like fell on top of a car. Like she doesn't look like she's bleeding and stuff like that. This is like the flip side of it when you turn her
Yeah,
over. It's like
yeah. The skeleton, the skulls exposed. That seems so pretty now. That pirouette. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's yeah, you may have not known about it, but like you said, like it's a pretty big hit. It was a big hit on DVD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think this is the first Apple movie I bought. The
Okay.
last. And then I got out of Apple, so or at least their um, iTunes and stuff like that. It became because I had like Android phones and stuff because my iPods kept breaking, and then I just ended up using my phone as my new like music player, and then using iTunes to like use with anything other than Apple products is just such a hassle that just like all right, I'm gonna exit this universe completely. So
Yeah, I don't know anything about I don't know how it works. I've never used anything but Apple products, so
yeah, I mean it's
um
not that much different. So, but I use a lot of Amazon stuff, and that usually ports over pretty well. So, and because
yeah, I was gonna say I've done all that on my phone, so
because I have Prime, it's like I basically get a lot of services for free in that respects. Um, but but yeah, now with like Spotify, it's like, oh, I don't have to buy everything. I can just stream it and see if I like it. So, yeah, that's Dread. Oh yeah, we're sending a probe into space containing a supercut of the scenes from the imperfect collection that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
well, I know which one you want to say, but
The end. We throw Mama from the building.
yeah, or Mama from the building. Oh, this one's hard to. It's really kind of hard to say. This is another one of those movies. There's so many.
Do you just want to
I mean,
send the opening voiceover of the city?
yeah, okay, that would work. But yeah, it's not just the world. There's so many like shootouts in this movie and stuff. It's hard to pick one where it's like, yeah, that one really stands out. Just like no, he's using different settings on his gun. Like I think one is a gas attack, one is a white phosphorus attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
One is a road flare that burns your brain. It's
which I think that's all stuff from the comic book, which it actually feels very
yeah,
video gamey because that's
yeah,
totally something like, oh, you have different guns and shots and you pull them out, but like I'm guessing that must have maybe influenced video games and we just never attributed it that way.
yeah. Judge Dredd, it's influenced a lot of like sci-fi type stuff. It's because it's a UK comic, so
Yeah, because I know you had like the heavy metal stuff. So did you ever come across it when you were a kid, or when did you come
oh
across
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay,
I knew what Judge Dredd was when I was a kid.
okay,
I didn't quite. I didn't quite get the political humor.
yeah,
So it just seemed like just kind of like another grim world. It's like, well, there's lots of those. It's only like later on where I appreciated like, oh yeah, this is like what if Superman was it was just a lunatic who lived by a code and had no or was because like RoboCop owes a lot to this too. It's like I just enforced the law. Um, but yeah, that's
Did you ever read "Give Me Liberty"?
why does that sound
It's a
familiar?
Frank Miller comic where like
Okay.
the brain of Ronald Reagan is elected president for like 40 years.
Was that it's sort of kind of jar, right,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something? Okay, yeah, I think I have read that. Yes.
It's very like dystopian, like mutants and stuff like that. It seems incredibly weird now because I think Frank Miller is basically like all four like dictatorships, and you read this book, and it's like, well, he seems relatively against it.
Yeah, it seems like later in life he hit like late middle age, and yeah, he's like an actual dystopian now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I vote for the worst human beings.
Yeah, I think he had like Nazis capture satellites that were lasers that were shaped like penises. It's a very crazy book. Like I just found it at the library and read it. It's like this is crazy because I like knew who Frank Miller was, and I think I read The Dark Knight and like I knew of Sin City, and so I was like, oh, what's this? And just sitting in the library. Here it is. Because that's one of those books where it's like, oh yeah, this is like, you know, because you think of comic books as being like Superman and stuff like that. It's like, oh, this is crazy and way outside the line of what I'm expecting. So.
Yeah, there were a few guys that did things like
Well, yeah,
that.
they always credit Alan Moore and Frank Miller for like making comic books more adult, but with The Dark Knight and The Watchmen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, where are we? You can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Dredd?
Oh, 5 stars for sure.
Um, You can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us on a monthly site on 99 cents 49 or 9.99. Cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast whatever you want. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. So just give us the highest rating and just juke the system a bit. Give us a chance. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on American Greed. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Track and watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.